There are times in your life that you may be faced with tough decisions. This is not one of them. It's that time, just in time for a fresh batch of cookies out of the oven. Lace up your trousers and get ready for some jokes. From Los Angeles, California, it's the Brian Crow Show. Bow, bitches.
Welcome to the show with the heaviest intro in industry. Welcome to the Brian Crow Show. Thank you so much for tuning back in. Tonight, we are going to continue going down the road exploring what is the comedic mind. Exactly what does it take to become a comedian? Why do you become a comedian? What does it mean to you? Where does it take you? Where do you think it's going to go? As the kids would say, hashtag WTF. That's what we're doing here tonight. And tonight, to help explore this concept, is this very funny man here, Jared Keel. Thank you so much for taking your time to come out and share your thoughts and feelings.
You're welcome.
Is that the length of most of your jokes?
Like, it's just, I just always want to do this. It's always nice. I'm drinking, so that is good. Can I talk? I don't know. Let's talk like this.
Yes, no,
I feel
absolutely.
close to you, Brian.
Oh, it's a dating site. So,
I found this on Grindr. Is that weird?
right, Grindr. Is that what happened?
I think so.
Actually, let's tell the true story here. We were connected by a shared friend, a man by the name of Brian Monarch, who will hopefully be on the show next weekend, who is another very funny comedian and booker here in the Los Angeles area, which means that not only is he funny, but lots of comedians kiss his ass. So that's how that kind of works out.
Yeah, he's a really good man.
He really is, and he's very funny. I've known Brian for several years. When I actually got back into comedy, he was one of the first guys that would start to book me consistently, and it's always great to do his shows. So, so let's start at the roots. Why comedy for you?
I just fell in love with it when I was really young.
How young?
Let's see. I used to watch reruns of SNL when I was 8. So
Okay.
I had all the stuff on like Comedy Central and E. And I fell in love with Sandler very young. I had all his CDs, his books, and then I found out when he was a comic, I wanted to follow his footsteps.
So for you, SNL was sort of like at the Sandler area. Were you aware of sort of like the original years when it was John Belushi and Gilda Radner?
I actually did not know that until later on when I started watching Conan. I remember the first episode of Conan I watched when I was 10, and then I think my first ever night where I stayed up all night to watch it. It was Christopher Walken 2000, and he came on, and then my dad's like, yeah, all these guys used to do it. And I Bill Murray, Aykroyd, Chase. He showed me all these guys, and I was in love with these. I never knew that.
Okay, so your dad showed you a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he did.
So is your dad a fan of comedy?
Yes. Oh, huge supporter of comedy.
Really?
He's actually the biggest supporter of what I'm doing right now.
That's got to be great to actually have somebody in the family who stands behind you. I know it's a consistent story where you decide to do something like stand up, and everybody's going, "What's your plan B?" It's like, what else are you going to do? Because nobody ever asks that to somebody who says, "Hey, I want to be a doctor." So I guess what sort of influence did that have on you to have your dad behind you, sort of pushing you forward and supporting that?
Well, actually, I didn't tell him I was doing mics. I started when I was 18.
Okay.
About 6 years ago, right out of high school, I started doing some mics. And then...
And by the way, for those of you at home, mics means doing open mics.
Yes. I did them a little in high school, and then I decided to stop for a bit and start writing. I would leave the house late at night and go do an open mic. I'd come back home. But once I hit college, I started focusing on writing more. I went to school for writing to help me out because I wasn't that good when I was very young.
Nobody is.
So
where did you go to school for that?
I went to school to Fresno State.
Yeah?
Fresno State was...
I didn't think people in Fresno wrote.
No.
Or read.
Well, I'm one of the few.
An escapee.
Yes. I was born and raised in Ventura.
Okay.
Decided to go to Fresno because, and so there's no reason why I went there.
Nobody ever says they had a reason to go to
Yeah.
Fresno. They just ended
They
up
have a
there.
reason for escaping, not for arriving. Actually, one of the earliest jokes I did in Fresno was Fresno was number 1 and 2 things that start with the C. It's chlamydia and carjacking. And I used to tell everyone I would ask the audience, what do you think I got out of the 2? And every time it's chlamydia, because they're rude. But it was a carjacking, which thank God.
Okay, so you actually got carjacked?
Yeah, I was.
Oh God, tell that story. That's got to be intense.
It wasn't too bad. It was it was in my apartment building, which is the weirdest thing. Where I think I'm safe. It says cameras are everywhere. It turns out they have no idea that where the cameras are.
Well, the cameras are everywhere. They're not on.
No, exactly. They're like, no, that's a tennis court. No, that's a camera. I don't like I don't like how you work here. This is the same place that lost my diploma. My diploma was sent to my apartment.
This just
complex
keeps getting deeper.
Yeah, life. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's Fresno, guys. They lost my diploma. I called them. I'm like, yeah, I'm expecting my diploma. They said they mailed to me. Like, oh, we received it. And I was like, and they're like, and let's go check where it is. Like, like they already knew what's going on. They're stalling. And so, they're like, oh, we don't know where it's at. But there's a note here saying it's at the room. So I get a call the next day because apparently they didn't find it that night. Like, so we called the post office, and the man said he didn't live over there. He couldn't read your address, what we wrote, so he threw it away.
Oh, well, that's a good thing you didn't. Same thing didn't happen with like the Publishers Clearinghouse Award or something.
But I mean, I got a degree in broadcast journalism, so how far could I really? There's no reason to put that.
You
up
know
on
what?
the wall.
But at least having the proof that you actually got that.
That's
You know,
true.
you did the work. You earned the diploma.
Yeah.
You deserve to get it, and to have some complete fucktard lose it.
Fresno.
Yeah, Fresno.
Fresno.
So if you needed another reason not to go to Fresno,
Me.
there you have it.
Look at this.
Yes.
But back to the whole like going into comedy thing. Sandler's what I fell in love with, and then when I was 13, I got my first allowance to buy my first DVD because I was 13 when DVDs came out.
Right, I remember those.
For what have you? Yeah, DVDs are things that are of the past now, which is very weird to say. My first DVD ever was Richard Pryor live on Sunset.
Yeah.
And that's when that was the ultimate. I have to do stand up. Like, he said whatever he wanted, and I just studied him. And for now 10 years ago, I still have the DVD to this day. Like, I'll cherish that thing. So,
Do you ever go back and watch it again?
all the time.
Yeah.
I think at least once a year I'll try to watch all his DVDs. Just from I cannot find is his first ever special with him live at the Improv.
I've never seen that.
I always watch clips. It's his first stand-up special, and he opens up with a joke about. He just walks on stage. He smokes a cigarette. He puts on a cigarette, and he goes, "You ever suck dick?" and that is just the best opening ever. And he's like, I used to suck dick for drugs. Like, I don't do it anymore. But he just goes on a tangent, and there's people laughing, and like that's. I'm like, I want to say something like that. I want to be remembered for something like that.
So what do you think about, I mean, clearly, in opening up with a statement as boldly honest as, I used to suck a dick, what about that level of honesty captured you?
Well, for that time, I mean, that skyrocketed. I mean, you had Carlin, who is a genius.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of my favorites, but I know why he's who he is.
Sure.
Nowadays, I mean, I can't go on that. Like, I used to open up with how if I'm gay kind of joke, and that's nothing compared to there's nothing that can be shocking like how that used to be. I think it was mid 70s when he said that. So
Oh yeah, mid 70s. That had to be like eyeballs
yeah.
over rolling. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing of shock value anymore. I mean, with social media and everything.
Right.
I mean, when Ebola struck, how many comedians or how many people made a joke about Ebola on Facebook, Twitter, anything?
Mm-hmm.
But you see top comedians not touch it at all. It's always, you can see like where everyone is on that spectrum with that certain joke.
Right.
But
Do you have any Ebola joke?
no, thank God.
Yeah.
I think I'm
No,
like,
me
this
neither.
one would be, yeah, right? Like, it's just so.
My whole thing with it is it's so of the moment. It's
Yeah.
almost too much. Where
Yeah.
it's like, you know what? If you were to do an Ebola joke, I mean, if you happen to, I mean, I've messed with a couple, but they weren't that good.
No.
If I wrote one that I thought was really, really great, yeah, I'd do it. But overall, my thought is it's so in sort of the current zeitgeist of what's going on.
Mhm.
It's like, oh look, there's like something, there's some coat trains I can jump onto. It's obvious.
Exactly.
So
you're
why do
trying.
it?
And that's like, I mean, the only thing that people don't touch anymore, which I know Jeff Ross is amazing at, is deaths.
Right.
Like a recent death. Like someone can hit that topic and everyone's like, oh, it's like that's too soon. You have a professional like Jeff Ross. He can do a quick one-liner, and that's all he has to do. He doesn't touch it for the rest of the night. It's just it's perfect.
Jeff Ross is that guy. He's really found a great way to talk about the things that you're not supposed to talk about, but he does it anyway. Have you heard Jim Norton just did the, I don't know, the primary speech up at the Just for Laughs?
No, I missed. I need to watch it now though.
Yeah, and he talks about subjects that you're quote not supposed to talk about, and it's really, I mean, he's not being funny at all, but he really his perspective, and I've only heard 3/4 of it because the phone rang, so I couldn't hear the last part of it. How as comedians, really a lot of we sort of get rules about what is and is not offensive or what is and is not okay. Because when we talk about, quote, taboo subjects, somehow it can be deemed as offensive as compared to, let's say, you take a movie like, I don't know, Django Unchained, and you take a character that, say, Leonardo DiCaprio plays, and he says and he does things that are horribly racist and horribly offensive. Nobody says, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio is a racist.
Yeah.
Because he's just playing a role.
Yeah.
Now, you and I as comedians take on a subject or a topic that is potentially racist, and what we do is play with it to maybe display the stupidity of it.
Exactly.
And simply by touching it, we become bad people.
Yeah, like and your point about the Leo DiCaprio thing, it's they don't look at him as the racist. He's playing the part. They look at Tarantino as the racist because he wrote the film. It's like with us, there's so many things that you can say that you can just get in trouble with. I mean, you had Tosh last year with the rape joke, and then you had comedians go to his defense, and you also had comedians going on the offense. Like you had Patton Oswalt, who saw both ways. He's like, as a father and as a husband, I see it this way, but as a comedian, I see it this way.
Which to me makes all the sense in the world, and I think that is the place where you do draw the line. Yes, there is. I have a certain sensibility as a father or as just a human being. There are things that I find offensive, but yet as a comedian, part of what I feel like my job is, if I decide to delve into a topic that is potentially racist, dangerous, whatever, if I can find something to take what is a shady, dangerous topic and yet shed a different kind of light on how to look at it, then it's my job to do that as long as it's funny, because the job is to be funny. And I guess my question for you would be, is there a topic, is there a point for you that it's like, you know what, I got a line I just don't want to, I don't want to cross?
You know what, I do a joke about that, about how it's a stupid joke. I mean, I still do it sometimes because I just like seeing how I like seeing the crowd reacting.
I got some of those too, yeah.
And so, I mean...
What are they going to do with this one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the jokes that I first started comedy with was I was dating a Jewish woman. Father didn't like me, and we started going in and out of the conversation between the father, how he hates me, and I'm just like getting frustrated. And then he asked me, he's like, at the end of the conversation, it's like a 2-minute joke. In the conversation, he looks at me square in the face. He said, well, if you think you're funny, you think you have a good future, like, what do you joke about? And I go, you know, my life, my views, observations on things. And he's like, isn't that what every other comedian says? I'm like, well, look who's telling the jokes now, guy. And then he asked me, he goes, well, what boundaries don't you cross? Like, what's something that you don't want to say? And I'm frustrated at this point.
Sure.
So I look at him square in the face and I go, sir, there are 2 things I don't like to joke about. True love and the Holocaust. Because I believe neither exist.
How did that go over?
I'm single.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first jokes I ever told, and then I came up with another one. It was so rapid. This was actually my first show I've ever done at the store. And I do that joke.
And the store, by the way, is the Comedy Store, the world famous Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard until they remodel it and it turns into a hotel with Pauly Shore's face on the top, and then nobody books it. Anyway, I got the weasel deal, buddy.
So I thought I'd lighten the mood by because that joke got. Side note, that joke is hit and miss, as you can tell by the subject matter. I did that show once in front of 500 people, and it was completely silent except for one guy just in the background. Oh shit, that's funny.
So
One
wait,
guy.
where did you do the show in front of 500 people?
That was It was for the
It's the Simon Wiesenthal Theater. No.
Lovitz.
At the
It was
Lovitz, okay.
Sold out 450
Cool.
or 400, whatever.
Yeah.
The high amount. It's one of the biggest shows, and when it's sold out, it's sold out. Standing room
Yeah.
only. Love the club.
Me too.
And so I did that there. But back to the store for my first time. I did that joke, and the second joke I did to come back with it was I did a stripper joke, and I talk about how the first time I ever went to a strip club, and this is all true, went to a strip club, and I was high on Vicodin and codeine because I just got my wisdom teeth pulled out, and my friends thought it'd be funny to take me out. And
Those are good friends. Are you still friends with them?
Whoever's watching, I love you. So I walk in, I say, like, since I lost the sense of taste, I felt like my other senses were enhancing. Like I became a superhero. Like I can see, like in the eyes of the men that are sitting there, and just get, like I can see the regret in their eyes, and then I can just hear the sound of the bottle breaking as the strippers' fathers walked out on them years ago, and that went silent. I'm like, okay, you guys don't like that one. I'm like, I can hear the bottle break as the dad beat the daughters, and that's why they're strippers now. And it became silent again. I heard one laugh, and I'm like, really, guys? You guys laughed your asses off at that Holocaust joke. But
Right.
a girl having a living, like people died in the Holocaust, but this stripper's making $14,000 a week, and you guys you're like, whoa, off topic, or like that's a hot topic.
Yeah. No. I find the things that people will laugh at, and there's an hypocrisy that goes on to it.
Yes.
They will laugh at things that are much worse than other things that they look at as being offensive. And I still haven't figured that out. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't figured out yet what is it about the human condition and what is it about people that they miss that connection.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
And here's more importantly, here's going to be a tough one to answer. Any idea why you think I believe that people in comedy, comedians, make those connections, and civilians, for lack of a better term, don't? How do you think it is that we sort of notice that, you know what, you're over here and you're condemning something that is nowhere near as bad as something horrible, that you go, oh, that's okay.
Well, I know that. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Yeah. Like, he wasn't expecting this kind of shit, was he?
No.
It's okay. I wasn't expecting that.
That's
We're
my
having a
big
good time.
joke set.
Yes.
This might sound totally not an answer. For me, I guess with the civilian, well,
Let me make this more simple for you.
thank you.
Is it entirely possible that the majority of people that are out there, or that you and I perform for, or that ideas are expressed to, are these people entirely full of shit?
Oh yeah, I mean, they come to a comedy show.
Well, no, that's not full of shit. That's
No.
that's entirely good choice of entertainment value. And by all means, you should all be going to live stand-up comedy every single night that you possibly can. There's very few other things that you can go do that will get you the same value, the same potential education, other than maybe going to see Gone Girl and do that. And when it's over, go to a comedy show.
That was the perfect setup. Thank you. But I think that, well, I don't know how to answer it. For some reason, the only thing that's coming to my head is like how they're coming to see us. They have no idea who we are. Like most of us, most people that come to the comedy show is because they have nothing to do on a Friday or Saturday night. They come out, they're like, let's just go see this. Or tourists, they want to see how it is.
Right.
I think like once we step on stage, they already have this, like, this guy's going to be funny. It's not how it used to be where you had to make a name for yourself. Like right now, the store can, with different producers, and there's certain things that they just put on now with mostly friends coming out. So no matter what, you're going to get a few like laughs kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
See, it doesn't make sense. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
No, you're on the right track. I get you. The idea that when you're doing a show, and yes, in fact, we're going to talk about, we'll relate this to the idea of bringer shows, which is something that you will educate you as to what that actually means in a moment. But when you're doing a show, you as your individual self, you've got a couple people that came out to see you, and there's a whole lineup, a parade of other comedians, and they each brought out their few people, and you take the whole conclave of it, and it becomes an entire show. But everybody's sort of there to, quote, see their specific, and then hopefully they discover the other comedians on the lineup as a result. So as that happens, I mean, how often do you do, quote, bringer shows, which are shows where you've got
I haven't done one. I told myself after I think it was in, I want to say February, March is my 4th month of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided the last one I was going to do.
So wait, March was your 4th month doing comedy?
I'm only 10 months in.
Really?
Yeah. 10 months professionally. And
geez, the umbilical cord is gone. That's awesome. Nice work.
It's just because we'll talk about that in a bit, but back to the bringer thing. My last bringer show was in March. I did a total of 4 shows, 4 bringer shows, from when I started to March. And then I told myself, I'm never going to do them again.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is because I wanted to become someone that, like everyone else, they want to get invited to the show.
Yes.
And
you do.
And that's my ultimate goal. So I decided to stop doing that. So I haven't been back to the store. I told myself I won't go back to the store until I get asked to go to the store. And it could be years in the making. But I just did, when I first started, I was an intern for the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica. One of the best clubs I've ever been to. Last week, I got asked to do the club. After 8 months after I left, I told myself, not coming back here until I get invited. And I got invited back. And it was just a dream come true. It was
good for you. Congratulations. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm working hard at. I told myself this next year, I'm going to do all the open mics I can. I want to start building up again. Right now I have 30 minutes. I want to get to an hour by June of next year. That's my goal. And so I'm setting up goals for myself to where I can just keep it going and then get invited back places. And then whatever show I get called onto, or if I ask someone for a favor because they know I can return it, is grateful. So, I mean, it's all about just, I want to make a name. I want them to go like, hey, you know what? This guy, Jared, is very funny. Let's try him out give him a few minutes.
We went to Jared.
Exactly. Ladies.
You don't just get laughs, you get an engagement ring. Not necessarily with the person you showed up with, and hopefully it worked out for the guy that got it. Yeah.
Me. But yeah, that's my ultimate goal. And it's like everyone else will go and stand up. They want their name out there.
Do you have any thoughts on sort of the whole, I guess, pay no attention to the dog behind the curtain. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the family house dog Fee, and she's Miss Wonder Dog.
Hello.
But do you have any thoughts on the whole, I don't know, bringer side of, and bringer, by the way, means that if you book a show, you are required to bring a certain number of people to a show, or either you may not perform or you will perform for lesser time because you didn't bring the required amount. And this is something that producers at a lot of different clubs put on as a requirement. It's a very standard thing at this point in stand-up comedy. Do you have any thoughts on what that is?
I think that there are good bringer producers. I'm not saying like every bringer producer is bad. There are those that just take people on and put them on for their money.
Right.
But there's also those that say, you know what, you're not good enough for the stage, and even if you brought 20 people, you're not worth the stage's time. And that's great as long as they have standards. But there are those that go, oh, how many people you can bring? You can bring 20. All right, you're hosting. Like, you got the set.
Sure.
And then you see that, and you're sitting there for a good 5-10 minutes because of the host, depending on it, and it feels like an hour. It could ruin the show. But people have to get paid, and so I understand that now, especially with how shows are going.
Sure.
And I know clubs are. I don't think clubs are losing money, but I think that it's not that bang that.
No, I believe that the money is certainly not there that it used to be.
Yeah.
I understand why bringer producers do the things that they do. I'm still personally of an opinion, and I'm clearly in the minority, and I could be completely wrong, because I bumped into the same stuff playing in bands and similar kind of stuff, that somehow all producers are actually doing, they're not producers, they're bookers.
Mm-hmm.
They book it. They'll tell people they're doing a show, but it's no longer that a producer promotes and promotes and promotes. What I'm going to do is a quality show. And if you come to my show,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what week it is, it's always going to be a good show.
Exactly. Yeah. There are those out there.
I haven't seen them because what it always ends up falling on is that it is the performer,
Mm-hmm.
be it the comedian or also in terms of doing being in a rock and roll band,
Mm-hmm.
that it becomes upon the performer, upon the artist to actually do all of the additional work. And then the promoter gets all the credit, and the band or the artist or the comedian doesn't get the pay. And that baffles me. And I find that to be, it's like you're spending your days pissing up a waterfall.
Yeah. I mean, the most I've ever been paid from a show, I think, is $60.
Right.
Which is, I mean, for less than a year, that's really good. I feel like I've been told that, I mean, now that I do show, I've now gone to San Francisco and Oakland and performed there, which is awesome. I have a show, I'll be doing Vegas soon, and they're trying to do Arizona. And that to me is still surreal. I'm still living this whole thing. Like, I don't mind not getting paid there, because now I know people. I got hit up last week from a guy in New York. So he saw my stuff and he really liked it. He said, whenever I'm out there, please let him know, and he'll come see the show. And now I have like a fan in New York. Like, if I told you this last year, or if someone told me this last year, I would, punch you in the face for lying to me. Because, I'm sad all the time. But it's just this whole thing for me. I'm just doing it right now. I haven't been paid. I don't mind not getting paid. I've made so many great friends too in comedy, that people I know, that I've started with, I think 6 or 7 people, and I think I'm one of only of 2 that are still doing it consistently, which is insane to me, because the other guys were good. They just couldn't stand it anymore. They wanted it now. They wanted the fame. They wanted the money now.
In it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. I'm in it because I love making people laugh. Like, I could take people 10 to 15 minutes out of their shitty lives and enjoy my shitty life.
I was about to ask, and not to avoid the whole pay thing, because
Yeah, yeah.
But so that is a driving force for you. It is that experience that, you know what, the people that are in front of me, I'm gonna take them to a different place.
Mhm.
I so get that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I get that question all the time. How often do you get the question where it's like, I don't know, I mean, do people ever ask you about why you're doing it, or what are you getting from it? Or do they try to, I don't know, sort of pigeonhole it into sort of the normal 9-to-5 day-to-day job, and they try to define stand-up comedy by those standard terms?
Well, I still do the 9-to-5 job. I mean, I
You
have
know,
to pay.
so do I.
Yeah, we have to pay the bills
Yeah.
somehow. Because if we, and that's what I mean.
Still got to eat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's
I may
something-
be funny, but I ain't going to laugh my way into death because I'm starving.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I got asked actually by my boss because he knows I did stand up.
Okay.
Pulled me aside at my break and he asked me, he gave me the ultimatum. Like, either he's like, I can tell you're stressed out because of stand up at night because I'll do 8 to 6, and then go to a mic and not be home to 1 or 2. Do the next day all over again, same time.
Right.
And when I first started, I did that for 11 weeks straight. Did 4 to 5 mics a week, 8 to 6, mic at night, do the same schedule. And I was dead. By my last show, I was just done. I couldn't even go up.
You and me,
Yeah.
I have been. In fact, I might have actually seen your footprints on the sidewalk. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So, but yeah, no, he gave me that ultimatum.
Wait,
and
how come you smell like Jared's perfume? What's the deal here? Or no, because we were behind each other on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's, and I told him, I'm like, I'm not going to make that decision. I'm like, this is a job to pay my bills. Unless you're promoting me anytime soon to being the top guy, then still, I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop at all. And so I told him that, and he got frustrated because it's like, choose one or the other. But
Of course, because he wants you to do the no. I want you to knuckle under. I want you to conform to what my sense.
I've been safe all my life. This is the biggest risk I've ever taken, and I don't
then
wanna stop.
then here's a note from me to you, whatever that's worth. Don't ever fucking stop. Fuck those guys. Fuck them completely.
Everyone has said.
Yeah. You know what? For good, bad, worse, what the fuck ever. Clearly, I mean, it's one thing that is clear to me is that you totally believe it. You totally believe it.
Well, that's what, like, back to the store thing. My last Bringer show I did was in March, and that's when Brian Callen was on the show for him. And I've never had, in the first 4 months I was doing stuff, I've never had someone watch my set, have a headliner watch the set. And I come off stage, and he grabs me. He's like, hey, man, that was really good. He's like, you're really funny. And I was shocked. It was the best show I've ever done, too. So I was like, thank God he saw that.
Good night.
Yeah. It was amazing. And then he's sitting there. I'm like, oh, my God, I've been watching you since I was, since Mad TV, since I was 6. I'm like, this is insane. He's like, you're old when some other kid comes up to you and says he's been watching for almost 20 years. I'm like, yeah, but like, you're right here. I was floored because I haven't met too many people. I met Kevin Hart when I was 18 before he got big.
Yeah.
And we talked about chapstick for 20 minutes. And he was
in no other place in your life than stand-up comedy can you talk about chapstick for 20 minutes.
And he was great. He was good. He was a great man.
I bet it was a great 20 minutes too, right?
God, it was so good. He
Yeah.
had his security guard that he just did a joke about, and he's talking to me too about a camera. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, but then when Callen I still talk to this day too. And like, that was the beauty of it. Like, I impressed him enough to where he says, this guy's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I put him on a few shows, and he's helped me out immensely with a bunch of things. And, I got to thank Monarch for that too. It was a Monarch show, and I met Callen because of it. What I was talking about. I just like, it's so cool though. It's weird for me to say like Callen's a friend of mine. Like, that's weird to me. And then I remember, you remember, like, do you remember the first comic you met, like when you started?
Yeah.
Who was the first comic you met?
The first real comic actually was Hal Sparks.
That guy's hilarious. That guy's so good.
Yeah, in fact, no, I was actually in his band 01 for several. I'm a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
We had a bit of a falling out, so I don't talk a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we had a disagreement on whether or not being a good musician was a good idea. I'm not sorry. Yeah.
The first comedian I met though was after my first show in last December for the store. It was Kirk Fox, who was one of my favorites. It's an comedy actors too, and he's by himself. He's just walking up to the show. No one's coming up to him. Like, this guy's Kirk Fox. Like, what's going on? And I come up to him like, Mr. Fox, hi, my name is Jared, a huge fan of yours. He's like, oh, it was nice to meet you, man. I'm like, I just got off stage. Like, he didn't even ask me anything. I'm like, I just got off stage. It went okay. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, it's like a dream come true meeting you, man. It's like, you're Kirk Fox. He's like, you need to dream bigger. And he just, and he goes, it was good meeting you, Jared. He walks away, and I'm like, oh my I was freaking out, and my friend's like, "What did he say?" He's like, "He told me to dream bigger. Kirk Fox told me to dream bigger." And then like, "Who's Kirk Fox?" I'm like, "I hate everybody." It's the little things too. Like comedians to us are like they are rock stars. Like if you see him on the street, and you're like, "That's that guy," but none of your friends know who that guy is.
In fact, I would describe
Or girl.
stand-up comedians as certainly success. They're almost unknown rock stars.
Yeah.
Because they're people that nobody thinks of and goes, "Oh, rock star," and then they see them,
Yeah.
or they talk about them. And they go, "Oh yeah." Very different than say you're Gene Simmons, you're Paul Stanley, you're Trent Reznor, what have you. You're David Lee Roth, whatever But there is an element of it to it. There's something more here's what it is. I think there's something more subversive about being a good and successful stand-up comic that is different than being a successful rock star or any other kind of performance or profession that you go into. Something about doing it and being great as a stand-up comedian, it's a bit more underground. Yeah. It's a bit more subversive because which I think is great, because the nice thing is you never know what the fuck we're going to say.
Yeah.
You never know where we're going to go, and you may love it, you may hate it, but the nice thing is we kind of don't care.
Yeah, like out of the group of my friends since I was growing up too, I was the only one into comedy. Straight up just anything DVD related. Like they want to put a CD on. I'm like, I have Mike Birbiglia, Daniel Tosh, Dwayne Perkins. I got them all.
Right.
And then another good friend of mine, Jasper Red, who I was in love with. Him and Dwayne Perkins. These guys, I used to have them on my CDs. And then I did 2 shows. I did a show with them both.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there. And there's.
Where'd you do those?
I used to produce a show in Ventura, or co-produce a show. And I booked Jasper because I contacted him right away. I'm like, "Hey, producing a show. I'd love for you to come out." He did it. Hit up Dwayne Perkins. So I did a show. I just did a show with him a week prior in this place called Comedy Hideaway in Santa Barbara and Ventura. They have 2 locations. And that Comedy Hideaway is one of the best shows ever. Andrei Belikov is a great producer, great booker, and great comic, too. He just did a show. He did for Hulu and stuff, too. And he just performed for Jim Jeffries. And before Jim Jeffries. And he's a great comic. But when Dwayne and Jasper both watched my set, like Dwayne goes like, "I really love that Holocaust joke," and I was just like, I was floored because this guy I've been watching for 13 years. Like I have the album still. I burned all the soundtrack or the CDs. I had blank CDs with Tosh and Birbiglia back to back, and then I had Jasper, Dwayne, and Tony Woods on one. It sounds segregated, but it's not. But those 3, and then when I met Jasper, and I've done a few shows with him now, here and there, and I mean, these guys, growing up, I never thought anything, and then all of a sudden now these guys have my number, or now I'm talking to them randomly, like a text, like, "Hey, how's it going, bud?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm doing good. Like, I'm doing this podcast thing." It's like, fuck, what? Like, it still floors me to this day, and Callan too. Like, I'll talk to him, like, "Hey, show coming up this day, you want to do it?" He's like, "Well, okay, yeah, sure." I'm like, never thought that would happen, and now it's still, to me, I'm still this child. Like when talking to these guys, I have no idea what to say. I have no experience what they have, and they still treat me like as. And that's another thing too, which is nice. I haven't met a total like a douchebag, I guess. Like when it comes to these veteran comics, there's a lot of them that see you like they were there, so they know exactly what it's like.
I find that to be a very interesting and very unique thing to the comedy scene as compared to dealing with a lot of musicians and dealing with a lot of actors and stuff just over the years. Comedy is one of the few places that I found that, you find the people that are further along, they actually give a shit about sort of looking at and nurturing people that are starting up. They look for something, and if they see something that they like, they actually want to do something to help out. I don't see that a lot of other places.
No,
I really don't. Like, and it's a shame.
I was looking at, Chris D'Elia. He put a picture. It was cool on Instagram. He's hanging out with Joe Coy. He's like, "I want to thank this man for selling me at an open mic, and he took me on the road with him." Like, that's the dream right there, to impress some other guy, and then like, we'll take you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what starts everything. And Chris D'Elia, I know, is one of the comics that gives back. He helps out a lot of people, and there's a lot of comics out there that give back in that way, and that's what I would love to do, and that's what I'm doing now. I help as much. I mean, I've only been doing it for so long, but I've studied enough to where I know the posture. I know how to tell the joke. I know how to write the joke. It's just it's something I'm helping someone out he freaked out. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was freaking out before a show. He's done stand up. I think a total of 5 times. Asked him to do a show, and he comes off stage. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, he's freaking, he's sweating. And I'm like, all you have to do, dude, is just relax. You've said this before. You killed last time.
Right.
You just got to relax and I'm like, just tell me the jokes right now, like the audience. And he starts shaking. And then he says first one, and I laughed. And then he's like, you see the nerves stop. And then you walk it down. You just got to talk to him. He goes on stage. He murdered. He comes off stage. I get this novel of a message on Facebook, like, I want to thank you so much for calming me down. It's just, there's people that you can just you can see what's going on in their head, and everyone's been in that situation, whether it's stand up or not, business meeting, anything that you have to say anything out loud, because the moment you start talking on the mic, the moment the audience starts judging you, and so and that's what got to him immediately. He's like, I just can't do this. So it's something I love doing, is helping out anyone that has a joke they want to write, any joke that they think is wrong. Just keep working. That's all you can do. You can't stop.
Yeah.
There's people that write a joke and then like they do one time on stage and it bombs. Like, I can't do this anymore.
You can't do. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no.
2-3 months for a 2-minute joke.
No, I mean, there was a great thing that I read just a few weeks ago, all about how Chris Rock puts together when he's going to do a special, and he will literally, at least what I read, and so we'll assume it to be somewhat true, that he will come up with in the neighborhood of 1,000 concepts, and he will show up at open mics around New York or whatever, and he will go up and he'll be just sitting down with notes, throwing stuff out, and the audience will sit there, and it's for the most part, at least according to the article, tanking. But then he'll find something that gets a chuckle. And all of that then begins to coalesce into something that becomes the joke that then 6 months later becomes the HBO special that we watch and we go, he's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the work. And that's, I think to me, one of the greatest things, I don't want to completely rip off the mystique about what this is, but I think that's the amazing thing that most people don't understand, is that, you know what? When you go see those comedians, it's not like, oh, they just sat down and they wrote that phenomenal joke and, oh, it's, this is genius and we're up in front of a stadium. It's like, no, this takes work.
Yeah.
It takes time and it takes commitment and takes the repetition and it takes the tanking and then learning from that. And how does that build and evolve into something? And then what does that evolve into? And even it could evolve into a joke like, wow, that's a really great joke. It actually doesn't really meet what my frame of mind is. Yeah. Great joke, tossing it aside, doesn't fit. And suddenly 1,000 turns into 20.
Yep. Yeah, it's, I think what he does too, and like I read a few years ago, is where he wakes up every morning with a newspaper. And he's like, I have to develop a story on this, and this. And if this doesn't work, he's going to get it off to a friend. Very
much like Mort. You're familiar with Mort Sahl?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Mort Sahl, God, he's been around forever. In fact, he performs semi-frequently up in Mill Valley, Northern California, at the Throckmorton Theater. And he became successful by, one of his biggest things was to sit down with a newspaper and read an article and rip it to shreds. And genius. Mort Sahl, he's a guy worth looking into.
Yeah, I mean, I know who recently did that. I don't know how long ago it was, when Hannibal Buress did a college, and they wrote a paper about him. And it's an article, like you can tell they did no research on him. And he reads the college article at the next place, and he goes just off. And it's one of the best. It's one of the best 5-10 minutes of my life, because it's so good. He's so quick with everything on how he's reading it, and it's perfect, because they talk about how he's just joking around with them because he hates interviewing them, and then they're like, so where do you come from? It's like, the streets. And then they wrote in the streets, and in the article they didn't. And he brings diversity to the school, and like it just talks about like, what do you mean diversity, and like he just goes on and on and on, and it's just It's perfect. I forgot, there's this another man that performed at the Virgil at the Super Serious show, if you've ever heard of it.
I have not.
It's a monthly show. They get the Nick Kroll and Pete Holmes were there last night. There's just random drop-ins, and there I forgot his name, but he opens up a book about or a notebook about fawns and their mating, and then and he talks about what about they made a POV like view from the fawn's sexual habits, because there's over like 30 books on a fawn's habit, but then he wrote this whole thing and he just goes on, and it killed. Like it killed because everyone's like, no one's heard of this before.
Right.
I think that when you bring something so random like a newspaper article or something just as like that, something real, and you can
something completely real and of the moment.
Yeah.
This means that this is something. This is a new and a fresh idea that I'm commenting on. And
that's the only topical humor I think I can do. I can't do jokes on what's happening, but if I get something I can read it, I can make fun of it as I go, and that's what I've known. I tried to do topical humor when I first started. I'm like, no, this is not.
Why do you think that didn't work for you?
I didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I felt like I was forcing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like I tried to read an article. I'm like, let me try this out. I was trying, like, I tried it political, religious, tried all that stuff.